Okay, the first topic that we studied was words of transformations and what could happen. So this one has 1, 2, 3, 4 things that happen to it. So based on the original shape, what did we do to move it around? So there was a negative, so what happened to our shape? Flips. It will look like that then, upside down. Then there's a multiplier of 5 halves. So would that number make it narrow or widen?
Widen.
Narrow.
I said the first one.
It is a number that would be bigger than 1, right? I tricked you because you thought fraction, but 5 halves is bigger than 1. 6 to the which direction? Right 6 and 1 down. Okay, getting the vertex. When it looks like this, you grab HK values and you have to think same or opposite. So which part comes first, the 10 part or the 3 part? The 3. Would I write a +3 or a -3? -3. So the 10 part comes next, plus or minus 10. Which one? Positive. Okay, when it looks like this, which is called general form, what should you do to get a vertex? -b over 2a. So -b would turn into a +2, right? The opposite of RB was +2 over 2 times, what is the a number in this one? 1. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. And then you have to go back to the equation and plug in 1. So I'm thinking, what is 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 3? If I'm ever doing that on my calculator, and for instance, if it's a negative x value, brackets are good. This one, what's the slope? What's the multiplier? How many x squareds would I have in this? -4, which means that this parabola will open down. What's the slope of the second one? How many x squareds? 1, which means it will open up. The axis of symmetry is always a vertical line that cuts in the half. How do you make an equation that has a vertical line? X equals. 25% of you are going to forget to write that. I don't know why. Always forget. Just remember, x equals, you're going to lose half a point. What x value do you go right through? -3. And here the x value you would go through is 1. Domain is the same. What is it always? From infinity to positive, forever left and right. Bless you.
Thank you.
Okay, the range. So I'm a visual learner, so I'm just thinking about this. This is what it looks like. This one was flipped down. So what is the low? What's the lowest this goes? -infinity to a height on the top of 10, square bracket. Okay? That point is called a max point, because there's some question on your test that just says, does this have a min or a max, and what is it? So you have to understand the direction. Does it open up or down, min or max? The lowest, so the lowest is a specific height of -4 to the height of up, up, up. Y-intercept is where x equals 0. Where x equals 0, and then I have to do a bunch of bedmass numbers. So calculate that, see what you can get. Okay, so I did brackets squared, which was 9, times -4, and then I have to still move that 10 part over, right? Because you have to get y. You have to get y all alone. So in this second equation, it's the same idea. You plug in 0 to replace the x. But this one's a lot faster math. Boom. -3. Because anything over here, 0, 0. Okay, an x-intercept is where y equals 0. So I won't ask you for this question. So where y equals 0. Okay, how? What kind of math do you do to figure this one out? So this math would have just been isolate. That's what this is called, just get it alone. I can't do that kind of math here because I can't isolate x squareds and x's. There's too much going on. Who knows, remembers the strategy? Factor, yep. Factor, so this is a simple trinomial. So x times x is the x squared. What times what makes the -3? So you're going to need 3 times 1. And they have to add to -2. One of them's negative, obviously, because of the -3. So what are the actual x-intercepts?
3 and -1.
+3, -1. So why don't we start graphing this one while we're still familiar here. 1, 2, 3, +3, -1. Those are the x-intercept. If I just gave you any 2 x-intercepts, could you figure out where the vertex should be? What x value should the vertex be on? 1. Because it needs to be where? Right in the middle of those, it will line up at the 1. The y-intercept, you told me, was -3. And you told me the vertex was 1, comma, -4. Those are the 4 points we've just figured out. What do you think? Does it look good as a shape? Can I put a partner point to this one? Do you remember how to do partner points? So this one would also be a partner over here. The slope of this one was 1, so what should the pattern of the points be doing? If the slope is 1, 1, 1, 2, 4. Is it following that because of all of our points? Yeah. 2, 4. Okay, if I have a vertex of -3, 10, can anybody tell me the next 2 coordinates? What are you doing? And I'm not afraid to start an over-up chart. 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. What should you do to that chart? Because that's not going to happen, this chart. Times by -4. So I'm going to go 1 over and 4 down. I'm not going to specifically graph a bunch of tick marks, but what height are those at then? 6? Yep. 2 over and 16 down. 2 over and 16 down. What would be the height of those 2 coordinates? -6. 16 down. So 4 down, 16 down, right? We told ourselves our y-intercept was -26. Does that make sense? Would that be where you go next? Way down here at -26? Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Creating equations. So we just did this on the other side where we figured out the x-intercepts. So now if I give you the x-intercepts, can you work backwards? Okay, so if these are the 2 x-intercepts, what math process did we do to get the x-intercepts? What did we do to get the x-intercepts? If you need to peek back onto the other page, we did it back here. So this is where we got our x-intercepts. What was the process to get there? Factoring. So if that's what we're doing, can you tell me what kind of brackets I had as my factors?
X minus y minus 7.
So opposite. Then what could I do to keep going up the page to the original? What should you do? X squared. If these were simple trinomials, what plus 2x? The numbers would add to that and -35. Okay, this person, me, has lost some points for something. What's my problem? I forgot y equals. If I say create an equation, you got to have some kind of equal sign, right? That makes sense?
Do we have to like go back up to demonstrate, or can I work down if I want? Like, can I start with the x-intercepts on the top and then?
Oh, yeah, that's fine. As long as you did the same thing though. Okay, parabola has a vertex at 1, -6. So, I don't know. I'm a visual person, so I'm visualizing that point being there. And 3, 6 would be here. So if this is the vertex, it must do that kind of thing, right? The vertex, and then you got to go up. So here's what I want you to think about. How much did I move over and then up to get there? So I can look at these values. So this was at a 1 and this was at a 3. So how much movement is that? Over 2. This was at a -6 height. Now it's at a 6 height. So that means I would have had to go up 12. Is that something I would see on this chart? No. This is the what should happen, and it's not what happened. So then 2 over should just be 4 up, but I went 12 up. So therefore, the slope is 3. Okay, I'm going to now make an equation. I would have a formula sheet. This is what I would look at on my formula sheet. So on my formula sheet, I would look at this one. Okay, why am I picking that one? Because it's easy to plug the vertex and the slope into. Vertex, slope. So 3 gets replaced for the A. X and Y always stay. And you need to replace the 1s and the 6s into the H and K spots. Should I put them in as opposites or sames? They're both going to go in opposites. So for me, I always start with the X stuff. So this X should be with a -1, opposite. And then the Y value, and then +6, opposites. Okay, if I looked at this table, could you figure out for me what coordinate is the vertex? Which one it would be, has to be the vertex? 0, 5. Why? Because there's partners symmetry happening around it. So the vertex is 0, 5. What's happening here? What am I doing? How much did I go over and up? Can you think about that? So this is over, to go over 1, and then this does what?
Down.
It goes down 1. So what's your slope if you're doing that?
-1.
Slope is -1. Okay, so I need those two things. Your slope is -1. I need them into an equation. And I'm looking again at my formula sheet. If I have a slope and a vertex, I'm always looking at that one. So the slope gets replaced with -1. Okay, this H is 0. Do you understand that I'm not going to probably write that? That looks weird. I don't usually write +0 in something or -0 on something. So it's just x squared because there's no h to go with it.
Would you get plexopathy like that?
like if you wrote it like this. It's not wrong. I won't probably dock you points. It's just like not mathy writing, but it's not wrong.
Okay.
Okay, so that's making equations. So that's a chunk of your test. Completing this square. So this is in general, and our goal is to make it look like that. This is our goal. We want it to look like that when we're done. Okay, step 1. Remove that number. So y plus 29. So get that number out of there. Okay, here's where the mistakes happen. I often see people trying to complete the square, which is that half, and square it. Right here, you can't. Why can't I do that now? You have a multiplier. You can only do the complete the square if you have a simple trinomial. So we're going to produce a simple trinomial. So we're taking the -2 multiplier out. And does that not also make sense? Because look at the format. Where is the -2? It should be outside of all this stuff, right? So get it out of there. Okay, so if I took the -2 out, then this would be just an x squared. If I took the -2 out, this would change plus 8x. See how I still have all that stuff, right? This times this is that, this times this is that. Then, this is where I create. I get my own number here. So which value am I looking at? I'm now looking at this, and you're doing something to it. Divided by 2, got that number, and then square it, which means your trinomial should end with a 16. Okay, so you created that. So think about when you're sitting on a teeter-totter and somebody comes along and sits. Now what do you got to do? You got to make the same thing happen on the other side. Do not add 16. That's not your bouncing number. What really bounces it? Minus 32, yeah. -32. Okay, so finalizing it is y, and then that would combine to be, is that -3? Y minus 3? -2 binomial squared. Remember that it has to look exactly like this, which is on your formula sheet. So a binomial squared would be x, what is that number going to be? Because it has to add to that, which doubles. Okay. Are you okay?
I choked on water.
Good to survive. I don't need to jump up and give the Heimlich here or anything.
I got first aid.
You got first aid?
Take care of us.
Do you need a candy to suck on?
I'm good. Matt, I got you, sucker. I'm good.
Birthday boy.
Alright, completing the square. On your test, I did put 2 of them on there. One that is just a simple trinomial to start with, and one that is a complex one that you would take out. So this one was obviously the harder style. Okay, word problems. This is the last part of your test. Okay, a sportswear store sells baseball caps. The store sold $615. but they want to get the most revenue. So let's talk about revenue of this situation. So how will they make the money? The price times the number that they sell, right? Does that make sense? The price of the hat times how many hats are sold will make your money. Okay, so give yourself 2 brackets. So the store is selling 600 hats and then they're $15 each. So where are you going to place the 600 and the 15? So 615 is the starter. So I'm putting them at the front of the brackets. When I read, it says that every time you increase the price by $1.50, increase your price by $1.50, then 30 decreased hats are sold. 30 decrease of sales. So what is this missing? A variable. So if this changes a couple times, this has to also change accordingly. So if you really increase the price by $3, you're going to sell 60 fewer hats. Okay, what should I do at this stage? I should FOIL it out. So you can get me your numbers there. Alright, how is our foiling? Looking the same? Okay, so this question talked to me about the max revenue. So I'm trying to maximize my revenue. Maximize. Does that make sense? Because this is my slope, right? Negative 45 is the slope number, so it's flipped, which means there's a max. And then what's the strategy to get that? How do you get the vertex in negative b over 2a? Do you notice how I don't have mine written? ABC. This is really the C here. This is a B. This is the A. Okay? It didn't come out in order, but make sure I know which one's which. So negative 450 divided by 2 times negative 45. 2 negatives will come out positive, right? Okay, so I'm getting 5 as an x value. Now, there's 2 questions, and on your test, be careful to read all the questions. First question, what should we sell the caps at? What should be the sale price for the hat? What do?
Plug the 5 into the price.
You plug the 5 into just the price. So we go the price would equal 15 plus $1.50 times 5. So just that little part is where I'm plugging it into. So if I do 5 increases, my price will get up to $22.50 for a hat. Okay, so knowing where to plug it in. Second question. Second question I asked is what's the highest revenue? So where do I go to find revenue? What should I do? It's a plug-in. Where would I go? I need to go here. Revenue. Revenue equals this with I need to plug the 5 in. So how much money are you going to make? So plug a 5 into that line. Practice this because this is very similar to a test question. The price, the revenue, understanding where to go with each one there. Remember when you're doing these word problems, also tell yourself, does it make sense? Like sometimes I get people who give me negative revenue. Obviously maybe something went wrong. Or negative time, that's a big answer mistake. Or negative width and length. Sometimes people give me those answers. So make sure it makes sense. 10,125? That was good. 9,000 plus 450 times 5. Okay, a couple more questions here. Oh, just one more. Okay, a rectangular fenced area is going to be made. And it sounds like we put a fence down the middle to make an area with 2 sections. So this is what it would look like with 2 sections. Remember, if you ever have a barn, you don't do one fence side. Okay, so I'm going to put some L's and W's onto this. So we'll call those the L's, and those 3 sides are the same, so I'm going to call those the widths. Okay, so kind of 2 parts to this question. The first part is something to do with the fence. So how do I add up all the fence that I'm doing? So 2 L's plus the 3 W's makes 300. So that's how much fencing I have. And then when I'm working with the area of this, area equals length times width. So now, this is going to be my quadratic, because area is x squared, right? Area is the squared. Quadratic, but I can't have a quadratic that involves 2 letters. So I need some kind of substitution to go in. Which one do you want to solve for? The L or the W? L, I always pick the one that's the fewer. So 2L equals 300 minus 3W. That's my first algebra move. So algebra, I moved the W away. Then I'm going to divide, and you can think of this equation like my children when they're small. If you give one kid something, you have to give the other kid something, or else they get mad. Okay, so I did the divide by 2 to everything. So 150 minus, I'll just do 1.5 on that. Okay, so this equals L. So this can make a replacement into the L. Okay, now we're the same ideas as the question above us. What should we now do? Finishing it is the same methods. So what kind of, so we're at this stage, so we would FOIL and negative b over 2a basically, right? It's all the same kind of process. So FOIL is, well, not quite a FOIL, but a distribution. So negative b over 2a, which one is your b value? Be careful there. So 150 is your b, so negative 150. And again, it would make sense that this is coming out positive. Okay, 50 is normally the x, but what? What is it now instead of the x? 50 is the w, right? Instead of x, it's w. So 50 yards equals the width. That's one thing I know. And the question says, what are the dimensions? So I need you to figure out the length of this. So what do you want to do to get the length? Look for a spot to plug in. Is there something that would get you length when you plugged it in? Yeah, right here. So length equals 150 minus 1.5, plug in 50. Does that make sense? Why I'm plugging it into that line? And there's my dimensions. On a test, I might also ask a question on what is the largest area. So now what am I doing? I would plug it into this line, or what else could I do? Times those, because this is length times width. I just times those two numbers, and it should give me the same, right?
Thank you.